What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. Okay, hot button issue number 2. In light of recent events, I guess it's kind of timely, prudent, whatever word you feel like using, to talk about gun control. I know this is something that a lot of people debate heavily over whether, you know, gun control laws should be super strict and it, you know, basically should keep guns out of the hands of most, if not all, citizens, or there's the flip side where, gun control laws should essentially be loose and people should be able to get a gun easier than they can now. Honestly, for me personally, I'm not super convinced either direction is totally right. There are places where both sides have worked relatively well. But of course, in a country like the United States, that is such a mishmash, melting pot, salad bowl mixture of different types of people, you're going to have all sorts of disagreements and conflicts and stuff like that. And so I think that's part of why it's such a major issue for the US in particular. My personal views, I mean, really, in a perfect world, nobody would be killing anybody else, have any desire to kill anybody else, and so gun control wouldn't be any kind of issue, because we wouldn't need guns. That being said, I think it really just kind of depends on how you view the situation, because when it comes to people who are angry or have a particular way of thinking about things, if there are guns available, they are going to get those guns or whatever it is. People are going to be violent if and when they want to be violent, and no amount of controlling anything is going to stop them from doing so. In terms of thoroughly answering this question, first, I think we need to look at other countries and what has worked well for them, but not only look at the countries themselves in that specific area of what they do. We can't just look at their gun control laws, we also have to look at the kind of people that they have, because different areas of the world operate in different ways. Feel free to leave me a comment somewhere so I can get a little more informed on this topic, because I honestly don't really know a ton. I am not a super huge gun fan, but given that I spend most of my years in Texas now, I know a lot of people that own guns, and they don't do anything violent with them. They take care of them as a person who owns a gun should. The problem isn't the laws in and of themselves. The problem lies within the people. Again, anyone who has a plan on being violent is going to be violent in some way or another. I guess it just comes down to the tools that are at their disposal in terms of how much damage they can deal. In all practicality, there's never, in a country like this, not going to be any guns at all available, because there's going to be some sort of black market somewhere, even if they are strictly forbidden for any and all citizens. I mean, that's what Prohibition was way back in the day. Alcohol was completely outlawed, and yet people were still getting it. Really, in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot more of a people issue than it is a law issue. So, kind of taking a step back to the general theme of this series again, where I think people generalize too much about this, is that they focus too much on the object that's in question. They focus too much on the guns themselves and whether the guns are good or bad. It's not the guns, it's the people that are really the problem. But also, come to think of it, in terms of the generalizations, gun control in uh, an urban area like, say, Philadelphia or New York or Los Angeles is a totally different issue. Or Chicago, I know they've had some recent problems in that vein as well. But on the day-to-day kind of thing, it's a whole different matter for cities versus rural areas. Now, I say that, but then you realize there are some places where it doesn't really seem to matter. I mean, there have been shootings in schools, and there's always going to be a bunch of people at schools because it's a school and that's what they do. I mean, unless it's the middle of the summer and there aren't students there attending classes. That's obviously not when there's going to be a mass shooting of any kind. I mean, my view on this, I'm somewhat neutral. I don't believe that people should just be able to get guns at the snap of a finger, but at the same time, I don't think we need to just completely get rid of all the guns everywhere, because there's always going to be a way to get them. And then if we get rid of all the guns and nobody has access to them, then people who know how to use them properly won't be able to defend other people who don't have guns from the people who are improperly using their guns to try to kill people. What makes me lean slightly more towards making sure that citizens can have their own guns if they so choose and prove themselves capable, is that, if and when the government ever gets so corrupt that it becomes necessary for the people to defend themselves from the government, then that's where having guns, having the right to bear arms, Second Amendment to the Constitution, that's where that becomes necessary. I mean, that's really what that amendment was made for, so that citizens can defend themselves from a corrupt government, just like the early settlers and citizens of the United States were defending themselves from the tyranny of Britain at the time. That's really what the purpose of that law was. I think extending it beyond that particular circumstance could be stretching it a bit. I guess you could expand it as far as to say allowing citizens to defend themselves is what that law was made for. Let me just say, I'm not trying to come up with a definitive answer to any of this, because again, this is a people issue, not a law or a gun issue, and people are always changing. There's all sorts of different types of people, so trying to really nail this down into a pat solution that will fit nicely for any and all circumstances is not going to happen, because of the nature of people, and people change, and they do things in different ways throughout the course of time. Well, here's something new, coming back to you on a different day within the same video, unless you count the vlog thing from my trip. So, couple reasons I'm coming back. First off, just in case it wasn't clear, the recent events I was referring to earlier on was the Orlando shooting, mostly. In regards to that, there's word spreading that, the guy might have had some kind of an assault rifle, and if that's the case, then let's put it this way: other than handguns and hunting rifles, I'm not sure there's really much of a reason for anybody other than soldiers at war to have any other type of guns on them, because there's no real reason for you to need that excessive, that damaging of a weapon on you. Now for the kind of primary reason that I'm coming back to you today. I just found out recently through a Facebook friend sharing an article from the BBC News website that there was a mass stabbing in China. Now, I realize it's a vastly different scenario. A, it's a different country. B, there were multiple suspects involved. But I think my earlier point still stands that if people have violent intentions in mind, they're going to be violent somehow or another. Now, the damage they might be able to deal can vary depending on the type of weapon they have available, but it still doesn't really change that much of what they're going to do. Yes, okay, gun laws should, you know, prevent and limit certain things, and certainly certain people. But again, there were, I think it was 130 last I saw that were injured in this mass stabbing in China. That's more people than were involved in the Orlando shooting. Again, more suspects, so it's, you know, the details are quite noticeably different in various ways. I guess a lot of people try to oversimplify the issue and make it about the guns or whatever weapon it is in question, rather than realizing that the people involved are messed up themselves. So, that's it for this little snippet of it. Now we kind of revert back to the original day I was recording stuff for the official wrap-up. I guess that's about all that I have for this week. Again, if you want to take a look back at my, first video that kind of sums up this series, please take a look at that. I think it'll give you a better understanding just on where I'm going with this series as a whole, and even it'll probably give you a general summary of the whole thought process on all this. Anyway, I'll be leaving a link to that either in the description, or there will be some sort of annotation popping up somewhere in the corner or something like that. Also, speaking of working on stuff for videos and all that, I have officially placed an order for and purchased my stuff for my new microphone setup. That should be coming within the next couple of weeks, I guess. There's one particular item that wasn't in stock where I placed the order. It says ships within 7 to 10 business days is what it said on the website. So I don't know. I'm giving it a week or two, and then you'll get to see that, and hopefully it'll improve the quality of things a little bit and leave me a little less worried about having to avoid outside noise as much as possible. So that's all I've got for you this time around. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video. Later.